Hey everybody, it's Margaret Adele here with my October wrap-up. This was the first full month of being a booktuber for me and the first full month of my personal reading challenge. Again, if you don't know what that is, I am essentially trying to read all of the books I already have, and I am only allowed to get a new book for every 5 that I've already read. So from the library or from a used bookstore or from a main seller like Barnes & Noble, I have to read 5 of my own books first. And I'm actually a little bit behind, and I'll explain why in a second. But first of all, I read The Brooklyn Knight by C.J. Henderson. Was okay. This one was about a professor that the book claims is like Indiana Jones, but I got way more Sherlock vibes. It never really kicked off like I was hoping. I was expecting, going to other places and going, fighting something, and it all stayed in one very limited setting. But it is pretty decent. There are a couple books. I believe the author did intend to make this like a long-standing series, but he passed away a couple of years after it was published. This is from 2011, I think? 2010. So, it's a little bit ago. Doesn't feel like it's that long ago. It doesn't feel like it's 8 years ago. It was pretty decent. I might pick up the next one in the series. Next up was Jude the Obscure by Thomas Hardy. This is a 19th century novel. I did a video on it, but if you want to check it out, this has the most, I'm not trying not to swear, screwed up moment of any book I have ever read. I'm talking like George R.R. Martin could learn from this. Because I get to hear of anyone talking about one of his characters doing what one of these characters did. At least in the same situation. But you can go check out that video. I'll leave it linked down below if you're interested. I'm happy I read it. I wanted to. It was a gift to me years ago. Although I texted my sister being like, what did you give me? What is this nonsense? But yeah. Be careful. Those 19th century books aren't as innocent as you think they are. Next up was Elven Bane by Andre Norton and Mercedes Lackey. This is a fantasy paperback from the 90s. I think maybe the year I was born, 93, which makes it as old as me. And I found this, 1993, April 1993. Dude! The month I was born, too. So that one, the pace was very fast. There was sort of that chosen one trope, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but things they felt very big. The stakes felt very big, which I like in a fantasy book. So yeah, I can't complain about that. That was also bought used. I will probably buy the other ones used. I think like I did a cursory look online, and they can get the next one in the trilogy for like $1.50. So I probably will try that. This month I also read Crazy is My Superpower by A.J. Mendez Brooks. She is, or was, a professional wrestler with the WWE under the name A.J. Lee. I wasn't watching wrestling when she was in, but I had heard about her and heard how groundbreaking she was for women's wrestling at the time. And the title is on point in that she talks very bluntly about her struggles with her bipolar disorder, watching her mom struggle with it and coming to grips with it herself. It's very blunt. There's a little bit of a I'm not like other girls aspect that I was not the biggest fan of. I could have done without that, but actually, I think I heard this before Elven Bane, but whatever. So I liked it, but a little less of that whole look how cool I am aspect probably would have been nice. Next up, I read Indigo Blue by Katherine Anderson. This was another one of my, again, paperback, bought used. Romance, read pretty quick. This historical romance, and I find that a lot of romance authors tend to take historical romance as leeway for having a super traditional man, and there were some parts that like made me actually uncomfortable, like, oh, that's very gender role-y. But I did like it. It was okay. Probably wouldn't give it above a 3-star. So that's all of the books that I just read myself, just for like, well, I mean, I read all of these for fun, but just randomly. Up next, the rest of the books I read for the month of October, I actually read all as part of the Witchathon. The very first Witchathon, which I did, you would not have guessed. Like, I swore up and down that this had been something that had been done before with how much people got into it. So I read 5 books for this. The first book, A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness, and I'm not going to go too big into these because I talk about them in the Witchathon vlogs, so I'll leave that below if you want to know more about that. After that was Forbidden Forests by Michael Cadnam. Very short, but very applicable for what I needed. Then, what did I do next? Yes, Sawyer by Dolores Fosin. This was a Harley Quinn romance that actually surprised me. If Indigo Blue kind of disappointed me, this was more than I thought it was. So that was cool. Then I read my ebook, and I never know how to make these work. Gretel by Christopher Coleman, a thriller retelling of the Hansel and Gretel story. It is, what do you call it when there's 4? A quadrilogy? Sure. A quadrilogy. And I probably won't be jumping onto the next one anytime soon. It was decent at the end, but didn't really grip me like a lot of thrillers do. I have a feeling I'm probably going to feel that way about a lot of my ebooks, because a lot of them I just randomly downloaded for free off of BookBub, and sometimes you get what you paid for. And then last up, which in this ranks as probably one of the favorite books I've read this month, was The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill. This was the mid-grade group book for Witchathon. It was adorable. I loved it. And again, I talk about it in the Witchathon Vlogs. So all in all, I read 10 books this month, which is great, but I also am behind. And let me explain. My reading challenge is I can only get 1 new book for every 5 of my personal ones that I've read. I read 10 books. 2 of those are new ones. 2 of those, both The Girl Who Drank the Moon and Discovery of Witches, are from the library. So I am technically behind on my own books. That being said, I'm really happy with where I am. I probably will force myself to read 2 extra books before it resets, and then I read the next 5 for the new book, because I really want to stick to that. And eventually I'll just have read so many of my own books that I can drop in and go back to normal, but I really have so many books I need to read. So this was fun. I read way more than I thought I would. I only gave myself the goal of reading 3 per month, which might be what I read in November, considering the fact that we've got Nano going on, but I have had so much fun, and to everyone that's been subscribed recently, thank you so much for being here. I have thought about doing this, being a booktuber, or being a YouTuber in general, for so long that it's almost surreal that I've actually got it started, that I can actually, to any extent, call myself a YouTuber. So yeah, this has been a great month. I'm really happy. And with nothing else, I hope you have a wonderful day and a marvelous tomorrow.